Hello friends, welcome back to another beanie tutorial. This one is a no bunch here at the top tutorial beanie or beanie tutorial, and I'm currently falling in love with beanies that have no bunch here at the top, and this is my second one in this series. I hope I'll be able to bring you more patterns, and it uses the half double crochet stitch, the slip stitch and the yarn over slip stitch. So if you know how to work those 3 stitches, you're good to go. If you don't know, I'll be very patient with you and I'll show you a slow step-by-step tutorial. So don't worry if you don't know how to do any of those stitches, because we'll learn through this tutorial. It also uses short rows, as you can see here, towards the crown, and we'll also learn the short rows in this tutorial. So I hope you really enjoy it, and let's just head over to the pattern. For this tutorial, you're going to need yarn. The yarn that I'm using is a worsted weight yarn. It's Saver by Ice Yarns. I'll leave it in the description box below if you want to use the exact same yarn, but you can substitute this one with any worsted weight yarn. It's 100% acrylic, 200 grams and 330 meters. You'll also need a 4.5mm crochet hook, a pair of scissors and a darning needle. To begin, you're going to take your 4.5mm hook and your yarn, and then start by making a slip knot. Then insert your hook and you're going to chain 58. So this is going to be the length of our beanie. If you want your beanie longer, you can add more chains, but your chain should be an even number. So go ahead, chain 58, then I'll meet you in row 1. Once you have your 58 chains or your foundation chains, you're going to start with the bottom ribbing. So skip the very first chain. Remember, the loop on your hook does not count as a stitch. So skip the very first chain, and on this second chain you want to slip stitch, and I prefer working in the back bumps for this first row. So turn your work, and then on these back bumps, that is, we're going to insert our hook and work our slip stitches. So work a slip stitch on that second chain, then slip stitch in each chain until you have a total of 18 slip stitches. This one is an adult size, so go ahead. Once you have your 18 slip stitches, we'll meet in our first stitch of the main rail rib stitch. So when you have your 18 stitches, you're going to work a half double crochet in the next chain, back bump. So insert your hook there in that back bump and work a half double crochet, and then follow this half double crochet with a slip stitch in the next chain. Half double crochet in the next chain, slip stitch in the next chain, and repeat this all the way to the end of your row. So your row should end with a half double crochet in the very last chain. Once you're through with row 1, we're going to turn to row 2, and for row 2 we're going to start by chaining 1. The chain 1 does not count as a stitch. Then we're going to work only in the back loops. So these are the back loops, and then these are the front loops. So we're going to work only on these back loops. And for the very first stitch, you're going to work a half double crochet back loop only. Then slip stitch, back loop only in this next stitch. Yarn over, back loop only in the next half double crochet stitch. Slip stitch, back loop only in the next slip stitch. And repeat this all the way until you're through with the main heart stitches and you have the last 18 slip stitches remaining. Once you reach the last 18 stitches, you're going to work yarn over slip stitches. So yarn over your hook and then insert it in the back loop of that next slip stitch, yarn over, pull through the stitch, and then you want to pull it through these 2 loops. So pull through the last 2 loops and do that all the way until you finish the 18 slip stitches. Always make sure that you're working on the back loops only. So go ahead with that, and then I'll meet you in the next row. Once you've worked the yarn over slip stitches in the last 18 stitches, you're going to chain 1 and turn to row 3. And for row 3, you want to work slip stitches in the bottom ribbing stitches. So slip stitch in those 18 stitches, and then we'll start working on the body. When you throw the bottom ribbing stitches, you're going to start working on the body, and our first stitch is a half double crochet. So you'll yarn over and then half double crochet, back loop only in that half double crochet. Also, I forgot to mention the slip stitches that we did were on the back loop only. We're not working on both loops for the bottom ribbing. We'll work on back loops only for all the rows. So for the body, also work back loop only, half double crochet in the first stitch, and then in the next stitch you're going to work a slip stitch in the back loop, yarn over, half double crochet in the back loop only, and repeat that until you have only 2 stitches remaining on this row. So work half double crochet back loop only on the half double crochet stitches, and then a slip stitch back loop only on the slip stitches, all the way until you have 2 stitches remaining, and I'll meet you when you're turning to our next row. I've worked my last half double crochet stitch here, and I have 2 stitches remaining. I'll skip the last 2 stitches, chain 1 and turn my work. And then for row 4, we're going to work half double crochet back loop only on the very first stitch, then slip stitch back loop only in the next stitch, half double crochet back loop only in the next stitch, slip stitch back loop only in the next stitch, and then you're going to repeat this all the way until you reach the last half double crochet stitch here. So I'll meet you when you're working on the bottom ribbing stitches. When you reach your last half double crochet stitch and you have the last ribbing stitches remaining, you want to work yarn over slip stitches in all the 18 stitches. So yarn over, go in the back loop only and work a yarn over slip stitch, yarn over, go in the next stitch, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, then pull through the 2 loops on your hook, and do this all the way to the end, and we'll turn to our next row. So repeat that, finish your row, and I'll meet you in row 5. I finished my row 4, and this is how the work looks like so far. Now you can see the decreases. I skipped 2 stitches, then turn and work my row 4. So for row 5, want to repeat row 3 pattern. You'll work your slip stitches in the first 18 stitches, and then half double crochet back loop only, slip stitch back loop only, and repeat that all the way until you have 2 stitches remaining. Your last stitch will be a half double crochet back loop only, then chain 1 and turn. For row 7, you're going to repeat, for row 6, we're going to repeat our row 4 pattern. Just work our pattern stitch, half double crochet back loop only in the first stitch, slip stitch back loop only in the next stitch, all the way until you reach your last half double crochet stitch here, then finish with yarn over slip stitches all the way to the end. So, and you want to repeat those 2 rows, that is row 3 and row 4, until you have a total of 12 rows, and then I'll meet you when we are now adding more rows. So I went ahead and finished 10 rows. I'm sorry, I told you to continue row 3 and row 4 until you have 12 rows, but you're going to continue until you have 10 rows if you're working the adult medium size. If you're working an adult extra large size, that is where you should have 12 rows. So stop at row 10 and then chain 1 and turn. And for row 11, you're going to bridge now the decreases. So chain 1 and turn. For this row, you're going to work slip stitch, back loop only for the ribbing stitches or the first 18 stitches, and then you're going to continue with the pattern all the way until you reach the very last half double crochet stitch here. So once you finish the 18 slip stitch, back loop only, you're going to work half double crochet, back loop only, followed by slip stitch, back loop only, and you repeat those two until you reach the very last half double crochet here. Then I'll meet you now when you're working on these decrease rows. Once you're through with that row, you're going to place your marker just to mark the very last stitch. So this we're going to start our increases in the next 2 rows, in the next rows. So after working your half double crochet, you're going to locate the turning chain 1 at the very beginning of your previous row, and then insert your hook there, then go in the next stitch 2 rows below, so here, and insert your hook in the back loop only, yarn over, pull through that stitch, then pull through the 2 loops on your hook to make a slip stitch. Then yarn over and work half double crochet, back loop only in the next stitch. Insert your hook in that turning chain of the previous row, and then go in the slip stitch 2 rows below, working in the back loop only, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through the stitch and pull through the 2 loops on your hook, then half double crochet in the next stitch. So this is what you're going to repeat all the way until you reach the very end here. So insert your hook in the turning chain, go in the back loop of the next stitch 2 rows below and work a slip stitch, then yarn over and half double crochet in the next stitch. Back loop only, insert your hook in the turning chain, go in the back loop only of the stitch 2 rows below, work a slip stitch, then half double crochet in the next stitch. So we're through with our increases. Now we're going to chain 1 and turn, and for this next row we're going to start by half double crochet, back loop only. So we are repeating the second row here. So we're repeating row to pattern, so half double crochet in the very first stitch, back loop only, slip stitch, back loop only the next stitch, half double crochet, back loop only the next stitch, until you reach the stitch with marker. Always ensure that you're working only on the back loops. Once you reach the stitch with marker, you want to work half double crochet, back loop only, and then replace your marker on that half double crochet you've just worked on. So replace it on that top half double crochet stitch, just put it in the back loop, and then continue with your pattern all the way until you reach the last half double crochet stitch here, then finish your yarn over slip stitches in these ribbing stitches. Do that and then I'll meet you in the next row. At the end of row 12, this is how the work now looks like. So remember, for row 11 and 12 was bridging, so we're bridging these short rows, and then for the next few rows we're going to add 2 rows at a time, 2 stitches at a time once we reach here. So for the next row, row 13, we're going to turn our work, slip stitch those 18 stitches. After your ribbing stitches, you're going to continue work half double crochet, back loop only in the next stitch, slip stitch, back loop only in the next stitch, and alternate those 2 stitches, working half double crochet, back loop on every half double crochet stitch, and slip stitch, back loop only on every slip stitch until you reach the stitch with marker, ending your row with a half double crochet in this very last stitch, the stitch with marker. At this point you can now remove the marker, then chain 1 and turn your work. For the next row, you're going to work half double crochet, back loop only in the first stitch, then slip stitch, back loop only in the next stitch, half double crochet, back loop only in the next stitch, slip stitch, back loop only in the next stitch, and repeat that until you reach the very last half double crochet stitch. And then for the bottom band, you're going to work yarn over slip stitch in every stitch to the end. So I'll meet you in the next row. At the end of row 14, chain 1 and turn your work, Then for row 15 you want to start with slip stitch back loop only in the first 18 stitches, half double crochet back loop only the next half double crochet stitch, slip stitch back loop only the next slip stitch, and repeat that until you reach the very last half double crochet stitch. So I'll meet you when you're here, and then we'll add 2 more stitches, then turn. After working in this last half double crochet back loop, you're going to insert your hook in that chain 1, the turning chain 1 for row 14, and then go in the next slip stitch 2 rows below. So this stitch here, you want to insert your hook in the back loop, then yarn over, pull through that stitch and pull through the chain, then pull through the loop on your hook. Then work a half double crochet in the next stitch and turn. So we've added 2 stitches on this row, and the next row, so this one is row 15, so row 16 you're going to chain 1, turn, and then work half double crochet back loop only in the first stitch, slip stitch back loop only in the next stitch, and repeat that until you reach the very last half double crochet. After working your half double crochet back loop only in that last half double crochet stitch, you're going to work yarn over slip stitches in each of these slip stitches all the way to the end. Then I'll meet you in the next row, show you the repeat pattern, and then you can continue until you reach the crown. At the end of row 16 you're going to chain 1 and turn your work, and then row 17 you're going to repeat row 15 pattern. So work your base or your ribbing stitches, slip stitching back loop only in the first 18 stitches, and then half double crochet back loop only, slip stitch back loop only, and repeat that until you reach here. Then we'll add 2 more stitches. So continue with your rows, and then I'll meet you when you're on this stitch. When you reach the last half double crochet stitch in your previous row, you're going to insert your hook in the turning chain of the previous row. So insert your hook in that chain, and then go in the slip stitch 2 rows below, back loop only, yarn over, pull through that, pull through the chain, and then pull through the loop on your hook. Then you're going to yarn over and half double crochet stitch in the next one, back loop only, then chain 1 and turn. So this row, we're going to repeat row 16 pattern, yarn over, half double crochet back loop only, slip stitch back loop only, half double crochet back loop only, and repeat that all the way to the last half double crochet stitch. And then once you reach here, you're going to yarn over, slip stitch back loop only in the last 18 stitches. And then once you're done, you're going to repeat those 2 rows. So the next row you're going to work all the way to this half double crochet stitch, and then add the next 2 stitches down here, turn your work all the way to the end, then come back again, finish your last 2 stitches here. So just repeat row 15 and 16 or 17 and 18 until you reach the very last stitch. Then we'll meet when you're working the next rows. So I went ahead and finished 22 rows. So I left you with instruction to finish it all the way to the crown here. So once you're at the crown, you're going to chain 1 and turn, then half double crochet in the first stitch, back loop only, slip stitch back loop only in the next stitch, and repeat that all the way to the last half double crochet stitch, then yarn over, slip stitch back loop only in the last 18 stitches. At this point you should have a total of 22 rows, and then at the end of row 22 you're going to repeat. So row 22 was row 2 pattern. Now row 23 is going to be row 3 pattern, and repeat that all the way to row 21. So row 22 all the way to row 21, you're going to repeat those rows 3 more times. So you're going to have four short rows. So this one is our first short row, then you're going to have another one, and then 2 more. I went ahead and finished all my rows, and I have a total of 82 rows in total. So I'll just cut my yarn. You want to make sure that you're leaving about twice or 3 times the length of your beanie. So then you can go ahead and cut your yarn and pass it through the last chain stitch. So once this is done, you're going to join this side using the mattress stitch join, then close the top. For the mattress join, you're going to take your yarn, then insert it in your darning needle, then you want to go in the opposite side of the brim, insert your hook in that very last stitch. Go ahead in the opposite side and insert your hook in that very last stitch. And then after that you want to go in the very first stitch of the opposite side, insert your hook, insert your needle, and then pass it through the next stitch. Do not tighten at this point. Do the same for this opposite side. Go in the first one, through to the second one, and then the second one through to the third one, working only in the back loops. The second through to the third on this other side, and that is what you're going to repeat. So go in the third through to the fourth, then this side the third through to the fourth. Add one more and then we can close them. After doing several stitches, you're going to pull this yarn through. To close it. So that is what you're going to repeat all the way until you reach the crown. So repeat that and finish all the way to here, and then I'll meet you when you're closing now the top part. After working all the seam through to the crown, you're going to go through the stitches around the crown and then pull your yarn. So just go through those stitches, still working on the right side. Once you've gone all around it and you're here at the seam line, you're going to pull your yarn to close that gap. And then once it's closed, you can go back and forth just to secure your yarn. Just go through the stitches. And then once it's all secure, you can push the yarn to the wrong side and then weave it in. So our beanie is complete and this is how it looks like. I'll just go ahead and weave in my tail at the end of this video. So thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please let me know in the comment section below. And if you'd like me to put up more tutorials, I'm also open to your suggestions. And until next time, thank you so much. Stay safe and bye.